All right, Shalom, Shalom, Israel. First, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach Umarak Yahushua. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world calls God, and Yahweh Shai is the name of His only begotten Son, who the world only calls Jesus Christ. First, I want to give a strong Shalom to all the mighty men that go out there laboring, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, doing all they can to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and during the 100-degree weathers, the freezing below colds, and everything that's trying to take away the words of the Most High. I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty Aqua, the sisters that are at home, the unmarried sisters as well, and married sisters that's keeping the commandments, reverence to their husbands, being teachers of good things, tender, delicate, and on fire for the Most High. And last but not least, I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty teenagers and children in this thing as well, doing all they can to make their calling and election sure in these last days. Now, as you can see by the topic of the video, it says, beware of these, I believe it says, beware of these horrible new false doctrines in Israel. Right, I'm gonna repeat that again. Beware of these new horrible false doctrines amongst the nation of Israel. Right? Now, you have a lot of prophecy kicking off in these last days. I mean, you have earthquakes happening that's killing people. You have the famine coming, the famine of the word, NATO. NATO, Joe Biden just sent $300 more billion to support Ukraine. You got NATO getting their troops ready. Poland getting some troops ready. You got China thinking about invading Taiwan. You have a lot of prophecies kicking off. But you got a lot of prophecies that's happening behind the scenes as well. Just because it's not an earthquake or if it's not a missile being dropped, that don't mean you don't have other prophecies that's kicking off. Now I want to kick it off with the book of First Timothy. All right, I want to kick it off with the book of First Timothy. I mean, you have a lot of prophecies in the Bible, right? This is the book of First Timothy, chapter 4, and verse number 1. It reads, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith." Now this is, this happened during the time of Timotheus and Paul the Apostle. Nevertheless, this applies to us in the latter times. It says that in the latter times, some shall depart from the faith. So it's a future prophecy, rather saying in the latter times, you're going to have a lot of men, they're going to fall from the truth. They're going to fall out. How though? It says, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. See that? Giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Now, you have a lot of doctrines of devils going out in the nation. And we're going to get to them. We're gonna bring them out, and then we're going to properly break them down. You have a lot of doctrines going on, man. You got men saying, Yahweh Shah sinned, he was breaking the commandments. Then they pulling precepts behind it. You got men saying, Yahweh Shah didn't walk on water. I mean, you got a lot of evil doctrines out here in Israel, man. You got men going into the olive tree in Romans 11. It's really going into this. All nations can be fake. All nations can be saved. These are what you call evil doctrines. You got people saying, see that right here, Christ said he was the Most High God. You got men saying that Paul is not a real character. I kid you not. You have men saying that the Apostle Paul is not real. You got men saying the New Testament was written by a white man. You got other men saying that the New Testament, the slaves during slavery, They wasn't allowed to read the they were only allowed to read the New Testament, not the Old Testament. It's a lot of doctrines of devils, man. And guess what? Men, they giving heed to them. They listening to it. You said Christ broke the commandments? Where is that at? Next thing you know, they getting seduced. Hey, now they fall out the truth, man. Now they don't believe in Yahweh Shah anymore. And it's really, I'm going to say it, it's chiefly these Old Testament Israelites that's coming with these madness and these false doctrines, man. These men that don't believe in Yahweh Shah. It's really these these OT onlys. Right? Nevertheless, you have other men spreading false doctrine as well. But let me read on this. It says, speaking First Timothy 4:2, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. See that? And these are some of the doctrines that men had in the ancient world. It's going to tell you. Verse 3, forbidding to marry. Yeah, you had certain men saying, hold on, you can't get married. Right? If you're getting married, you're going off. What do you mean if you're getting married? I thought the Lord said in Genesis 1:29, be fruitful and multiply. Right? It says, and commanding to abstain from meats. Yeah, you had men back then saying, hold on, you can't eat meat. If you eat meat, you're going off. Just like you do now. And you got brothers saying, right, for one, you got brothers saying we in Jacob's trouble right now. Then you got brothers saying that if you marry, you going off. And then they use Luke chapter 17 and say, see that we living in the days of Noah. Just as they was in the days of Noah, they were getting married, drinking, being married. See that? So you can't get married. We living in the days of Noah. Brother, that's not what it's talking about. So you have men just twisting up the scriptures. It says, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. I mean, so these is some of the doctrines, in the ancient world. Right? You can't marry and you have to, you can't even eat meat. That's what men was saying back then. Now, let me bring this out in 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter. So the topic of this video is beware of these new horrible false doctrines in the nation of Israel. Let me bring this out in 2 Timothy chapter 4. Right? 2 Timothy chapter 4:2. It says, preach the word, be instant in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they would not endure sound doctrine. And you living in the times that men is not going to endure sound doctrine. You got men just believing anything. You got brothers saying Yahweh Shah had sexual intercourse with Mary Magdalene. Yahweh Shah really had kids. I mean, it's a lot of false doctrine being spread. It says, but after their own lust shall they heap up to themselves teachers, having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. And the reason why we going over this stuff, so brothers and sisters so we could chiefly rightly divide the word of truth and have the Most High's name be magnified. Nevertheless, so you brothers and sisters could learn this and know how to break these things down, because a lot of brothers, they get turned away from the truth. I remember it was like this actually was probably a few months ago. When I used to be on Clubhouse. And that's an app called Clubhouse where you could go in there, debate, look up topics, etc. And I was on Clubhouse one day. I barely got on it anyway, but I got on Clubhouse one day. And as I was on Clubhouse, I went in this room. They was talking about the Gentiles debate. And there was this brother, and there was this Jake, and in his bio said the debunker of the Hebrew Israelites. Meaning his sole purpose was to go on Clubhouse and debunk the Hebrew Israelites. And he was talking with this brother and they was talking about Romans chapter 11. And the brother that he was going against was an Israelite, but he couldn't be able to break down what he was, asking him to break down. Now, if you know anything about Clubhouse, you could raise your hand on that app so you could get on stage. Now, the debunker of the Hebrew Israelites, he was going through Romans 11. He was like, no, that's not what it's talking about. This is talking about the other nations. Then he pulled in precepts. Then he went to Romans 10 and say, see that the Lord, he will get a nation that was not called by his name to provoke Israel to jealousy. Next thing you know, the Israelite brother, he was confounded. He didn't have no answers. Then I tried to raise my hand so I could help the brother out. But on the Clubhouse app, only way you could get on stage is if somebody let you on stage. So I'm trying to raise my hand to help the brother out, and I just can't get on stage. He didn't let me on. So next thing you know, the brother just getting seduced. Hey, and I haven't seen that brother, since then. So you actually have men that get seduced by these doctrines and they fall out the truth. They start listening, the demons start working on their mind and have them believe a lie. Next thing you know, they fall out or they start believing what they were taught. That's why it's very important to study the words of the Most High so you could be approved unto the Lord. That's 2 Timothy chapter 2 and 15. Now, let me get this last precept and then we're going to get into it. Right? It's the book of 1 John chapter 4 and verse number 1. It says, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they of God. So you can't, just because a man has fringes on, just because a man has a beard on, he might have a mitre on his head, he might have a girdle on. You cannot believe every spirit, man. Some of these brothers, they just off, man. They just go into these rooms on Clubhouse and they just start down trying to deceive brothers that don't know what's going on. It says, but try the spirits whether they are of God. How do you try these spirits? By seeing if these spirits and what these men are saying, does it line up with the precepts? If it don't line up with the precepts, then something's not right. You have to try the spirits of God, because many false prophets are going out into the world, and ultimately these men are false prophets. These men that spreading false doctrines on the highways and byways. These men that's just creating doctrines off of one scripture. These are what you call false prophets, and they going into the whole world, deceiving whoever they can deceive. Now, really, these are spirits created by the Most High. Let's get that in Job, the 12th chapter. Now, you might have had a friend. He was in the truth. Y'all was going hard. Y'all was reading every day. Y'all believed on Yahushua. Next thing you know, the brother, he just start waxing worse and worse. Next thing you know, you call the brother up, and now he's saying, I don't believe in Yahushua anymore. Explain this right here. Explain this. And then you like, well, what do you mean you don't believe in Yahushua anymore? I don't believe in Yahushua. Then they throwing these precepts at you. Who wrote the New Testament? Can you explain that? Next thing you know, they bug out. And you grew up in the truth with this brother. This stuff is happening, man. And at the end of the day, that's the Lord doing it. Right? Now let's go to Job chapter 12. This is the book of Job chapter 12 and verse number 16. Right? Job chapter 12 and 16. It says, with him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. See that? So the Most High, he controls the man that's being deceived and seduced by these spirits. And the Most High is controlling the man that's doing the deceiving. So at the end of the day, the Lord is doing this, man. The Lord has Old Testament only Israelites out here. The Lord has Israelite Christians coming out here spreading false doctrine. You have something called an Israelite Christian, right? Which is madness, man. But you have something called a Israelite Christian that believe all nations could be saved. And this is what happens. And this could happen to you if you're not on fire, right? This could very much happen to you if you're not on fire. Now, this could happen to me. If I'm not doing what I got to do, praying, staying in the spirit, being diligent, hey, the Lord could turn me over into a reprobate mind. Next thing you know, I'm starting to believe a lie. Let's get that in Romans, the 1st chapter. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 1, and verse number 1, and I want verse number, let me see, 28. It says, even as they, Romans 1 and 28, and even as they did not like to retain God and their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. See that? So the Lord could give certain men and women over to what you call a reprobate mind. When they believe in something, but it's not really there. They're thinking, their mind is jammed up. Right? Now, let me see. Let me actually pull up that definition. Right? Let me pull up this definition of the word reprobate. All right, so like you bear with me. I don't have the StreamYard pulled up, but I'm gonna try to get the definition for this word reprobate. This computer working slow. Right? Let's get the definition of this word reprobate. Yeah, this computer is working mad slow, man. That's okay. Right, that's okay. Most High willing, starts working. There it goes. A reprobate mind. So you have certain men in the nation of Israel. They have what you call a reprobate mind. Now, a reprobate mind can happen to anybody, right? A reprobate mind can happen to me. A reprobate mind can happen to anybody, man, if they're not being diligent, right? Now, the word reprobate literally means, according to so-called Christian doctrine, an unprincipled person. It says reprobation in Christian theology is a doctrine which teaches that a person can reject the gospel to a point where God in turn rejects them and curses their conscience. See that? So ultimately, a reprobate mind is chiefly, when the Lord is playing mind games on your mind and your conscience, man. He's having you believe a lie. Let's get an example. Before we go into these worst doctrines, let's get an example of a reprobate mind. Let's go to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15. Right? It's the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15, and verse number 17. It says, and Samuel said, when thou was little in thy own sight, wast thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel. right? Because when you read this chapter, the Lord told Saul, the Lord told Saul to kill all the Amalekites in the city. Don't spare nobody. But guess what Saul did? Saul didn't listen, and he spared the king of the Amalekites, Agag. Now it says, and the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners and the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil and evil in the sight of the Lord? So Samuel, he's telling Saul, Saul, what did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Meaning he's telling him, you went off. You transgressed the law. You saved Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive. Now guess what Saul said? Verse 20. 1 Samuel 15 and 20. And Saul said unto Samuel, yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. So, Saul had a reprobate mind, man. Because Samuel just told him, hold on, you just saved the life of this man. You didn't, I thought the Lord said destroy everybody. Guess what Saul said? Saul said, yeah, I did obey the voice of the Lord. And that's an example of a reprobate mind, because you did. How did you destroy everybody and cut off everything, but you still got the king saved alive? But guess what? The Lord was playing on his mind, man. The Lord turned him over to a reprobate mind. He started seeing things and thinking things that's not really there. And that's what the Lord could do with these false doctrines if you're not diligent. Now, let's deal with these doctrines, man. Now, again, this video is titled "Beware of these horrible new false doctrines in Israel." Now, I believe these are new doctrines. Now you could come out and say, hold on, these doctrines not new. I dealt with these before. You could correct me. But from what I've heard, these are new doctrines. Now, let's go to John, the 13th chapter. Right? Let's go to the book of John, chapter 13. This is the book of John, chapter 13, and verse number 3. Now, you had this new doctrine out, and it got brought to us when we was at camp before we had to deal with it. You got this new doctrine. OT only said, for one, he don't believe in Christ anyway, but he said that Christ broke the laws of God. Christ did not keep the commandments. That's his stance. Christ, Yahweh, who you call Yahweh Shai, he did not keep any commandments at all. That's his stance. Now, with him saying that, this is how he justifies it. This is John chapter 13 and verse 4. Verse 3, it says, Yahweh Shai, knowing that the Father have given all things into his hands, and that he was come from God and went to God, he riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girdeth himself. Now, you have this new doctrine saying Christ broke the commandments. Then you ask him, what commandment did he break? He said he broke the law of nakedness. Because in Leviticus, the 18th chapter, let's go to it real fast. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 18. Now, this could trip up somebody that, that don't know what's really going on. All right, let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 18. This is Leviticus 18 and 6. It says, none of you shall approach to any that is near of kin unto him, to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. So you cannot uncover the nakedness of anybody that is near of kin, meaning of a relative. It says, the nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, thou shalt not uncover. She is thy mother, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife, thou shalt not uncover it. It is thy father's nakedness. the nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, either their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. Now, what does it mean by thou shalt not uncover his nakedness? Meaning you can't look upon them while they have no clothing on. Like, for example, Ham, when you read Genesis, the 9th chapter, Ham uncovered the nakedness of his father. Ham, Noah, he was drinking wine, he was in his tent, and Ham peeked in the door and seen his father naked and was just staring at him. Right? That's evil, but that's uncovering the nakedness. We're not going to read the whole Leviticus 18, but the point is, they said that Christ washed the disciples' feet while he was naked. They said Yahweh Shai, who we call Yahweh Shai, they said Yahweh Shai, that Yahweh Shai. So you telling me he didn't sin? Did you know that he washed the disciples' feet naked? Then he's going to John 13. Let's go to it. It's John chapter 13 and verse number 4. It says, he riseth from supper, talking about Yahweh Shai, and laid aside his garments. See that? So they said, hey, Yahweh Shai, he took off his garment. He took off his clothes. It says, and took a towel. So he took off his clothes. He took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. So they go to that. They say, see that? Yahushua took off his clothes. He put on a towel. Then when he poured water in the basin, he took off the towel that he was girded with and washed his disciples' feet naked. Is that what is going into? Was Yahushua naked when he was washing the disciples' feet? Let's just be honest. Was the Lord naked when he washed the disciples' feet? I mean, man, that just, I mean, you could get upset. You could make somebody mad like that, man. Disrespecting the Lord. Saying that the Lord, he was washing Peter's, the apostles' feet, butt naked. Is that what's happening right here? No, that's not what it's talking about, man. That's off. Why would the Lord, you telling me the Son of God, he came down and he washed the disciples' feet naked with no towel on, with no clothes on. Let's deal with this John. Let's just deal with this madness. Right? I mean, I never heard something like this in my life. Now, this is John chapter 13. This John chapter 13, and I'm going to read verse 4 again. It says, he riseth from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. Now, brothers don't know what garments consist of. They think, we asked the brother, hey, what does it mean by garments? He said, oh yeah, that's your clothes. What you have on right now, that's garments. What he fails to realize, in the ancient world, men wore actual garments. How the brothers wear garments on the highways and byways, men was wearing that in the ancient world. We're gonna show you that. Let's pull up the word garment in the Greek. Right? Let's pull up the word garment in the Greek. Right, so like it, bear with me. Like I said, I don't have the StreamYard pulled up on my computer, so I'm gonna just have to show my computer. My computer working slow as well, so bear with me. Right, so this is the word for the word garments in the Greek. Now it says a garment. It says a garment of any sort, garments, the cloak or mantle and the tunic, the upper garment. the cloak or the mantle. See that? So this is not talking about literally his all of his clothes was off. Yahushua took off his garments. Now a garment actually consists of things, um it actually consists of different accessories, right? Let me see. I don't know if you guys can see this, but you have, if you look up for the word garment, the word garment, it says of any sort. You have the upper mantle and you have the tunic or the cloak or the mantle, right? This is that word garments. So when it says Salakia, when it says Yahweh took off his garments, it don't specify. So and that's why it don't get it don't get so descriptive that you could make a whole doctrine with it. It just said he took off his garments. Now, for the brothers that have garments, let's say if you watching this, you a brother, you have a garment. When you put on your garment, do you not wear clothes underneath, or do you put some type of underclothing under your garments? Any brother that has a garment, they would tell you they will put on clothes underneath their garment. Somebody might have a garment on, but underneath they have a shirt on and they have pants on. Nobody's gonna come out that house with a garment with no clothes underneath, no underwear, no none of that. So that's why this is madness, man. So it says the upper garment. Now, the priest actually, you have something called the high priest garments. The priests actually had garments that they wore. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of the high priest garments. Right? See that? The brother Carlos Dexter Khan, I have clothing underneath. Yeah, no, nobody would literally put a garment on with no clothes underneath. Literally. See, that's what they trying to play with the Lord, man. But the Lord, the Most High is gonna get up with those men. Now let's see if I can pull up a picture of the high priest garments, the priestly garments in the ancient world. Bro, I'm trying to find a good picture. Let me pull up this picture. Tunic. It's like it bear with. I'm trying to pull up this picture. I had to pull it up on the Cyber charts. It's like it's not no clear pictures popping up. I had a picture pulled up earlier, but this look like it's gonna have to do. This looks like the best available picture we have. Right? The high priestly garments. Now, we don't know what type of garment Yahushua was wearing. The Lord could have been wearing a garment on down to the foot, a blue garment. We don't know what garment he had on, you know what I'm saying, during this time, but let's get a good picture of this. Now, if you look at these high priest garments, you have different things that's on it, right? Now the high priestly garments, you had something called, you had the turban, the crown at the top of his head, the onyx stones. You have the linen tunic, just like we just pulled up in the Greek. You have the ephod. You have the Urim and Thummim, which you could read about in Exodus, the 28th chapter. You have the blue robe. You have the pomegranates. And you even have the linen pants that the priests will wear underneath their garments. So, if you're saying Yahushua was naked completely, and he laid off all his garments, that's just a lack of scholarship. That's just horrible. So let's go back to John chapter 13. I want to bring this out again. It's John chapter 13 and 4 again. It says, he riseth for supper and layeth aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. Now, when you have on a garment, you will have on a girdle. Anybody that has a garment, 9 times out of 10, you will have on something called a girdle. Now, you might say, well, what is a girdle? Let's pull it up on the screen. Warrior garment. Right? You will have a girdle. Now, the girdle is to hold up the garment or to gird your loins. Let's see if we can get a good picture of that. Yeah, something like this. Something to this effect. I don't know if you guys can see that. But something to this effect. That gold thing around his waist, that's what you call a girdle. Now, Yahusha, in the description of John, Yahusha actually wore a girdle. Let's pull that. Let's get that real fast. All right, let's go to the book of Revelation. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 1, the classic. This Revelation chapter 1 and verse number 13. It says, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot. So we see again, Yahushua had on a garment, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. So the Lord had a golden girdle around his paps. Right? The paps will be also known as the breast area. Not saying that Yahushua had breasts, but around the chest area. So the Lord had on a girdle, man. And what's that girdle for? To hold up the garment tight, and also so you won't get thrust through in war. But certain men, they take verses and they twist it up and then they run with it. Now you got brothers saying Yahushua washed the disciples' feet naked. But again, this could be a stumbling block to somebody that doesn't know what's going on. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 18. Right? We're not going to spend too much time on that. But that is absolute madness. That is complete. That's complete foolishness. That's a lack of scholarship. That's a presumptuous damn decision to actually say that the Lord did something like that. Let's go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 18. Right, this is the book of 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse number 4. It says, and Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David and his garments. So you have some. It's a distinctive difference. You have the robe that like the priests wore. They wore robes, but they would have the garment over the robe. So it says, and Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him and gave it to David and his garments, even to his sword and to his bow and to his girdle. So when it says, somebody might say, well, it says garments with the S. So that means he took off all of his clothes. No, a garment consists of different accessories. You might have a girdle that comes with it. Certain brothers with your garment, you might get a mitre with it. You might get different accessories with it. You might get a little pocket right there that you could put an ephod in. You know, garments, they consist of different accessories. So to say that the Lord washed the disciples' feet butt naked, I mean, that's just madness, man. That's foolishness, that's folly, that's wickedness, that's false doctrines, and that's lies. And if that brother doesn't repent and believe on Yahushua, we just gonna say it. He's gonna be destroyed. We just gonna say it. Yes, he could be an Israelite. He could be from the tribe of Judah. He could be from the tribe of Ephraim. But if you don't believe that Yahushua is your Lord and Savior, you will not be saved, man. You would not be eligible for salvation because you don't even believe in the Savior that's coming to redeem you. So men, by saying we don't believe in that, they make a new doctrine that says Yahushua washed the disciples' feet naked. So that's how you deal with that, man. I mean, it's pretty simple, but you know, that could be a stumbling block to somebody. Now, let's go to the book of John, chapter 8. Let's go to the book of John, the 8th chapter. Now, another new doctrine, and this one is, it's kind of new. I heard it a little bit before, but this is fairly new. It's probably a couple months old. You have a new doctrine out saying it's again that Yahushua broke the commandments. You have a new doctrine out saying that Yahushua condones adultery. Yahushua, he allows people to get away with adultery. This is a new doctrine, man. I mean, like I said, it's probably about 2-3 months old, maybe 4 to 5. But this is fairly new, man. You have men saying that Yahushua is for adultery. And this is where they go to. Let's go to John, the 8th chapter. Or let's go to the book of John, chapter 8, and verse number 2. I'm going to start at 1. John 8 and 1. You have men saying that Yahushua is for, he let a woman get away with adultery. He condones adultery. And why didn't, this is madness. John 8 and 1. It says, Yahushua went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said unto the master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. So the Pharisees supposedly, they caught a woman in adultery in the act of it. They brought this woman to Yahushua. They said, hey Lord, this woman, she just committed adultery and we caught her. Now it says, now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? They really brought this to tempt Yahushua, because they knew according to the law you had certain ordinances that had to be done. So they say according to the Mosaic law thou shalt be stoned. Thou shalt surely be put to death. Let's get that in Leviticus. Actually, we're going to hold that. Verse 6. They said this, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yahushua stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So the Lord writing, now we don't know what the Lord wrote. He just writing on the ground, and he just ignoring them. You even got a doctrine saying, we actually found out what Yahushua wrote in John 8 chapter. That's off. That's just madness. But nevertheless, Yahushua was writing on the ground. It says, verse 7, so when they continue asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And he again stooped down and wrote on the ground. And when they heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Yahushua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Yahushua had lifted up himself, he said he saw none but the woman. He said unto her, woman, where are those thine accusers? Have no man condemned thee? Meaning, he said, where did everybody go that said, you were supposed to get put to death? Verse 11, she said, no man, Lord. And Yahushua said unto her, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. So men, they take this from John 8 and 1 all the way down to 11. They saying, see that? This woman committed adultery. According to the law of Moses, which you are supposed to be stoned. Both of them shall be put to death. But they saying this woman was taken in adultery, and the Lord just let her go free. Now, is that saying that Yahushua is for one? You have to go through the ordinances. It's a whole act and ordinances that you have to deal with when you have this situation on a rise about adultery. You can't just, oh yeah, stone her. Then everybody just start coming out of nowhere. No, first you have to have witnesses. You have to see whether this thing is so. Can somebody be lying? Is there a false witness? This, that, etc. It's so many ordinances that go behind adultery. It would just be off to just stone somebody. Oh, hey Lord, hey, this woman, she committed adultery. Let's stone her. Then the Lord just start stoning her. And then I'm just, no. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 19th chapter. That's not how judgment works. Right, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 19. Right, that's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse number 15. Deuteronomy 19 and 15. It says, one witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity. Right? Nobody can say, so-and-so, you going off. Or they can't say, you know what, Tazama, I caught you smoking weed. Yeah. And it's just this brother only. He's saying he caught me smoking weed. Or he caught me doing, eating pork. So yeah, I caught this brother eating pork. One man cannot rise up for any iniquity against another man. But what? It says, or for any sin. And any sin that he sinneth at the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall the matter be established. So you have to have 2 or 3 witnesses that this woman actually committed adultery. Now, when you read John 8 chapter, it do say that she was taken in the very act, and that you actually had the scribes and Pharisees there. So that's 2 or more. But just because you have 2 or more witnesses in the ancient world, that don't mean you automatically just stone the woman. It's more of a process to it. But brothers that make that doctrine and say that Yahushua condones adultery, they don't know the law, man. Now read on, it says, verse 16, if a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both of men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and judges which shall be in those days. Now the woman can say, well, hold on, I didn't commit adultery. You know, I don't know what's going on. They will have to take that to the priest. You have to go to the priest and before the judges. Right? Did those scribes and Pharisees bring it up to the priests and the judges? No. But they only did that they would tempt Yahweh Shah. Where you knowing? It says, and the judges shall make diligent inquisition. And behold, if the witness be a false witness. Right, it says they shall make diligent inquisition because adultery is not a small matter. You can't just say somebody committed adultery and with no proof. I mean, because adultery, according to the law, you're supposed to be put to death. Now, that's a heavy charge to lay to somebody with no evidence at all. With not, you just going off another man's word. No, you have to do diligent inquisition. Meaning you have to ask, questions. You have to interrogate somebody. You got to bring them to the room. Okay, where was you at 9 p.m.? Okay. What did you go with now? Where was you at 4 a.m. in the morning? Why do we see you? Esau do that now. They said, why do we see you going into the same bar that this woman was at 4 in the morning? You got to make diligent search, inquisition. You got to search out that matter because you're laying a heavy charge to a man or a woman. It says, behold, if the witnesses be a false witness, have testified falsely against his brother, then shall ye do unto him as he hath thought to have done unto his brother. So thou shalt put evil away from among you. See that? So you have to make diligent inquisition. Now let's go to Leviticus chapter 20. Right? So you have men, if you just coming in, you have brothers in the nation of Israel that know they Israelites. And they're saying that Yahweh Shai condones adultery. The woman in John, the 8th chapter, she committed adultery and he just let her free. He didn't act according to the law of Moses. Yahweh Shai wasn't keeping the law. Then we just went over, you got brothers saying that Yahweh Shai washed the disciples' feet naked. So it's a lot of madness going on. But let me bring this out in Leviticus chapter 20. It's the book of Leviticus chapter 20 and verse number 10. It says, and the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. See that? It says the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Now, in John, the 8th chapter, where is the account of the adulterer at? Those men, they brought the woman, which is fine. But where is the adulterer? Where is the adulterer in John, the 8th chapter? Why did the Pharisees and scribes, why did they only bring the woman? They brought the adulteress. But where's the adulterer? They didn't have the adulterer. If you catch somebody in the act, in adultery, you have to bring both of those people, the adulterer and the adulteress, have to be brought on trial to see if this thing was so. Then you will have the witnesses. Then you will have everything. But where's the adulterer at? Right? Show me in John, the 8th chapter, where the account of the adulterer is at. Like I said, they brought the adulteress. But where is the man that committed adultery with her? You're going to find out that the Pharisees and scribes didn't bring him. So by default, you're saying that this woman in John the 8th chapter committed adultery. But where's the man that she committed adultery with? Now you can say, well, that man, he ran off somewhere. He was nowhere to be found. he picked up, then he moved to South Africa. Well, that's not in there. It don't say that. It don't even have enough details. So that's why it's not enough evidence. That that case is disclosed. The Lord said to that woman, hey, sin no more. These men, they came up with that, and they was trying to tempt Yahweh Shah. Now, like the brother said, the brother Judah and Manya, right, Shalom, King. The brother said, Khan, like in the book of History of Susanna. That's where I was finna go next. Right, let's go to the book of the history of Susanna. Right? Let's go to the book of the history of Susanna. Right? Let's see. Let's go to the book of history of Susanna. It's like I'm trying to look for this other precept before I go there. Right, that's okay. I'll find it later. Let's go to the book of the history, Susanna and Apocrypha. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? You know, hey, this is Bible prophecy. The Lord said, you know, seductions, wickedness will increase. So, I mean, you're gonna have false doctrine. And we gotta expect more false doctrine. We can't just expect, you know, these are the only new false doctrines. No, it might be some doctrine. A brother might whisper some. You in Jacob's trouble, then a brother whisper a new doctrine. Hey, did you know that? Did you know that Yahweh Shah is really the brother of the Most High? His long lost brother? And you whispering that in your ear. So, I mean, you know, it's going to be more false doctrines. But let me bring this out in history of Susanna. Let's go to the book of the history of Susanna. Now, if you haven't read the history of Susanna, you know, that's a good book to read, man. You know what I'm saying? That's a good book. Now, this is the book of history of Susanna, verse number 20. I'm going to start at verse 20. It says, behold, the garden doors are shut, that no man can see us, and we are in love with thee. Therefore consent unto us and lie with us. So you had these two elders, these two wicked men. They wanted Susanna to have sexual intercourse with them. But Susanna said, no, I'm not doing that. So this is what they said in exchange. They said, verse 21, if thou would not, meaning if you don't lie with us, we will bear witness against thee, that a young man was with thee, and therefore thou didst send away thy maidens from thee. Because Susanna was married, when you read Susanna 1 and 1 on down, to Joachim. Now they said, if you do not lie with us, Susanna, we're going to bear false witness against you that you committed adultery. Which is off, man. Now, let's jump down to verse. Man. Hey, man, if you haven't read the history of Susanna, hey, you got to read that, man. Now, I'm going to read verse 32. This is a beautiful book. One of my favorite foremothers. This is actually the most favorite foremother. Now, I'm going to read verse 32. History of Susanna, verse 32. And these wicked men commanded to uncover her face, for she was covered, that they may be filled with her beauty. And that's off. These men were so lustful, they wanted to, man. Verse 33. Therefore her friends and all that saw her wept Then the two elders stood up in the midst of the people and laid their hands upon her. And she, weeping, looked up toward the heaven, for her heart trusted in the Lord. And the elder said, as we were walking in the garden alone, this woman came in with two maids and shut the garden doors and sent the maids away. Then a young man who there was hid came unto her and lay with her. Then we that stood in a corner of the garden, seeing this wickedness, ran into them. And when we saw them together, the man we could not hold, for he was stronger than we, and opened the door and leaped out. So this is their cause. They bring us Susanna. They saying Susanna committed adultery. The elders knew that you have to have the adulterer and the adulteress. So they trying to get the adulterer, but they said this man was too strong. They just made up something. Reading on. But having taken this woman, we asked who the young man was, but she would not tell us. These things do we testify. Then the assembly believed them. See that? So you will actually have to go before a council in adultery. These men in John the 18th chapter or John the 8th chapter, they didn't go before, you have something called the Sanhedrin. But they didn't go before the council, the assembly. It says, then the assembly believed them as though as those they were the elders and judges of the people, so they condemned her to death. So these people, they believed these elders, but these elders didn't have literally proof. They wasn't tried, for lack of better terms. Right? They wasn't interrogated. They didn't get investigated fully. It says, then, verse 42, then Susanna cried out with a loud voice and said, O everlasting God, thou knowest the secrets, and knowest all things before they be. Thou knowest that they have borne false witness against me, and behold, I must die, whereas I never did such things as these men have maliciously invented against me. And the Lord heard her voice. Therefore, when she was led to be put to death, the Lord raised up the Holy Spirit of a young youth whose name was Daniel. See, that's so the Lord heard Susanna's cry. Then he stirred up Daniel's spirit and caused Daniel to be on fire. And Daniel, he rose up in judgment. This is the same Daniel that you read about in the book of Daniel. It says, verse 46, who cried with that loud voice, I am clear for the blood of this woman. Then all the people turned them towards him and said, what mean these words thou hast spoken? So he, standing in the midst of them, said, are ye such fools, ye sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth ye have condemned a daughter of Israel? So Daniel said, hold on, no, so Susanna, she's innocent. Hey, did you even examine these men and their stories? Or are you just going because they're elders? Read on. Return again to the place of judgment, for they have borne false witness against her. Wherefore all the people turned again in haste, and the elder said unto him, come sit down among us, and shew it to us, seeing God have given thee the honor of an elder. Then said Daniel unto them, put these two aside, one far from another, and I will examine them. See that? So this whole time when these men, they're trying to condemn Susanna for adultery, they're not even being examined. So Daniel said, you know what? Hey, I'm going to examine this matter diligently. I'm going to diligently inquire and make diligent inquisition. It says verse 52. So when they were put asunder one from another, he called one of them and said unto him, O thou that art waxen old in wickedness, now thy sins which thou hast committed aforetime are come to light. For thou hast pronounced false judgment, and thou hast condemned the innocent, and hast let the guilty go free, albeit the Lord said, the innocent and the righteous thou shalt not slay. And when he said, the innocent and the righteous thou shalt not slay, He's talking about Exodus chapter 23 and 7. I'm going to read it real fast. It's Exodus 23 and 7. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I would not justify the wicked. See that? Now reading on. History of Susanna. It reads, verse 54. Now then, if thou hast seen her, tell me, under what tree sawest thou them companying together? Who answered, under a mystic tree, I believe. This is Old English in the 1611. But Daniel is asking him, hold on, you seen Susanna in adultery? You seen her commit adultery with this young man? What tree did you see them commit adultery under? One of the elders said, a mystic tree. A mystic tree. Salaki for the pronunciation. And Daniel said, very well, thou hast lied against thine own head. For even now the angel of God have received the sentence of God to cut thee in two. Hey, so Daniel was in the spirit, man. Verse 56. So he put him aside and commanded to bring the other and said unto him, O thou seed of Canaan, and not of Judah, beauty have deceived thee, and lust have perverted thine heart. Thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Israel, for they for fear company with you, but the daughter of Judah would not abide your wickedness. Now therefore tell me, under what tree didst thou take company of together? So Daniel asked the other judge, hold on, what tree did you see Susanna commit adultery under? It says, who answered, under a home tree. So one of them said a mystic tree, the other one said a home tree. So they stories is not adding up. And that's why you need that diligent inquisition. It says, then Daniel said unto him, well, thou hast also lied against thine own head, for the angel of God waiteth with a sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you. With that, all the assembly cried without a loud voice, and praised God who saveth them that trust in him. For they arose against the two elders, for Daniel convicted them of false witness by their own mouth. And according to the law of Moses, they did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intended to do their neighbor, and they put them to death. The innocent blood was saved from the day. And that's Deuteronomy 19 and 19. Whatever you charge a man for, if you're a false witness and you being found a false witness, you would get charged for that as well. And what account in history, Susanna, did the elders say we saw them commit adultery under a certain tree? They never even said that. So that just show you how Daniel was playing on their minds. Next thing you know, they stories don't even add up. So in John the 8th chapter, Yahushua is not condoning adultery, but rather it's certain things you have to get set up if you wanted to testify a woman for adultery and to have her to be put to death. Not only that, those men were sinful themselves. Let's go to Romans the 2nd chapter. Those scribes and Pharisees, I mean, they was off themselves. So how you gonna try to testify against somebody, but you doing the same thing that they doing behind closed doors? That's like me telling a brother, hey brother, you gotta stop eating shrimp, crab, and lobster. But I'm doing the same thing when I go home behind the damn doors of my room. That's hypocrisy, man. Right? That is what you call hypocrisy. Now, this is Romans chapter 2 and verse number 1. It says, therefore, thou art inexcusable, O man, whoever thou art that judgest, for when thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. For thou that judgest doeth the same things. And those scribes and Pharisees that was trying to get those people jammed up, They was doing the same things those sinners was. The sinners was doing. Right? Jumping down to verse 22. Thou sayest a man should not commit adultery. Dost thou commit adultery? Thou that abhorrest idols, do thou commit sacrilege? Thou that makest thy boast in the law, through breaking the law dishonorest thou God? See that? So you had certain men of the Pharisee sect that was saying, hey, don't commit adultery or we gonna stone you. The whole time they was freaking off with their neighbor's wife. So saying that Yahweh Shai is condoning adultery in John 8 chapter, that's just a lack of scholarship. That's a lack of knowing the law. That's a lack of knowing the precepts. You don't know what's going on, man. If you're saying that Yahweh Shai broke commandments and he didn't keep the law, you are going off. You're saying that the Lord committed sin. Let's go to Hebrews. Right? Let's go to the book of Hebrews. Right? This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 4. This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 4 and 15. For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted as like we are. Right? Talking about Yahweh Shai. Yet without sin. So just like me and you are able to get tempted, the Lord got tempted, but without sin. The Lord did not break any commandments. The Lord wasn't washing the disciples' feet naked. The Lord doesn't condone adultery. Then you got brothers saying Yahweh Shai, he told Satan in Matthew the 4th chapter not to tempt the Lord thy God, but yet he tempted Peter by asking him to walk on water. The Lord did not break any commandments, man. Let's go to 1 Peter. I mean, that's blasphemy. This is 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 21. Do you know what you're saying when you're saying the Lord washed the disciples' feet naked? Peter saw Yahweh Shai naked. Do you know what you're really saying? You're saying that the Lord might be on a down low. You're saying that Yahweh Shai just... I mean, you're saying so much. This 1 Peter chapter 2 and 21. For even whereunto you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that we shall follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. So Yahweh Shai didn't do any sin, man. The Lord did not break any laws. He did not break the law of Moses. We're just going to say that. The Lord did not break any laws, neither did he break the Mosaic law. Let's go to the book of John. Right? Let's go to the book of John. Right? It's the book of John, chapter 15. And verse number 10. Right? It's the book of John, chapter 15, and verse number 10. It says, if ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandment and abide in his love. So Yahweh Shai said out of his own mouth, I have kept the Father's commandments. Is Yahweh Shai a liar? Is he breaking Leviticus 19 and 11? So, I mean, we have to stop with this madness, man. Now, let's deal with this. Let's deal with this last one. What time is it? 7. Let's deal with this last one for the sake of time. Right? Let's deal with this. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. So now you also have men saying You have men saying Yahushua was a hypocrite, right? You have men literally saying the Lord was a hypocrite. And this is how they're proving that the Lord is a hypocrite. This Matthew chapter 4 and verse 5. It says, Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the Son of Man, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou shalt dash thy foot against a stone. Right, so Satan said, Yahushua, if you to be the Son of God, cast yourself off this pinnacle. Now, the reason why he said that, because it is written in Psalms, the 91st chapter. I believe that's Psalms chapter 91 and verse 12. Let me grab that real fast. This is Psalms chapter 91 and verse 11. For he shall give his angel charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. For they shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. So Satan, the spiritual demon Satan, he's quoting Psalm chapter 91 and 11. He's saying, if you fall off this pinnacle, Yahushua, I mean, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, your angels, they're gonna bear you up, lest you fall and dash thy foot against thy stone and you die. This is what Yahushua said unto him, verse 7. Yahushua said unto him, It is written, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. So what they saying is, they saying, see that? So are you saying, see that right here? Christ is saying, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Meaning Christ was acknowledged himself as the Most High God. For one, that's not what it's talking about. Let's go to Psalm chapter 82. And like I said, these are, it's not like these are good doctrines, but these are just lazy ideologies created. But I'm going to say this again. This could actually trip up a brother that's not well studied. Now, this is Psalms 82 and 6. It says, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. But ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. So, I mean, you can't even use that Yahushua is calling himself a God, because all that word God means is literally powers. The powers. Now, the children of Israel, they're called gods. So if I call myself a God, am I saying I'm the Most High God? Absolutely not, because that word God is Elohim in the Hebrew, which just means the powers. Now, what Yahushua is actually quoting, he's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 16. It's written, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. What Satan was tempting Yahushua to jump off of this, rather, because Satan knew that the Lord had to die on the cross. Right? Satan knew that the Lord had to die on the cross. Now, the only reason why Satan said that to him, because it is written in Psalms 91 and 11, if Yahushua was to jump off or fall off the pinnacle, that would never happen, because the angels would bear him up. So Satan was rather tempting Yahushua, trying to do him, just like with the bread to the stones. Satan knew that Yahushua could have did that. But guess what? The Lord quoted a precept, Deuteronomy chapter 8. Man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. So just to say that the Lord is charged with blasphemy, he's saying that he's the Most High God. Again, that's the lack of scholarship. Now what they do is, they go to Matthew 4 and 7. They say, see that? So the Lord told Satan, you cannot tempt the Most High God, or you cannot tempt the Lord thy God. Then they go to Matthew chapter 14. Let's go to Matthew chapter 14. It's Matthew chapter 14 and 22. It says, And straightway Yahushua constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Yahushua went unto them, walking on the sea. Now that ship, it had something called a tempest, meaning the waves were unusually going higher than it usually does, or in a storm. Now, reading on, it says, and when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit," and they cried out for fear. But Yahushua said but straightway Yahushua spake unto them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water." And he said, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on water to go to Jesus, to Yahushua. Now, for one, I don't even know how you could use this to even say that Yahushua is a hypocrite, because he told Satan, "Don't tempt the Lord," but yet Peter he literally willingly wanted to go out into the sea. So I mean, the brother we dealt with is just he doesn't know the Bible. We're just gonna say it like that. He doesn't know the Bible. This has what do Matthew 14 and 22 has to do with anything with Yahushua being a hypocrite? I mean, literally, what is hypocrisy in this chapter? When you read Matthew the 14th chapter, chiefly is going into the John the Baptist being killed, then the Lord feeding the 5,000, then it's going into the ship. I mean, how is this going into Yahushua being a hypocrite? But I'm gonna finish it out. It says, "But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and began to sink. He cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Yahushua stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they come into the ship, the wind ceased." So, I mean, I don't see any hypocrisy in there. But, this what we have to deal with, man. So, those three doctrines I just came out with, those are fairly new. Now, like I said, again, you could come out and say, hold on, those doctrines is not new. We heard those 3 years ago. Those is kind of old. But first, you got men saying Yahushua washed the disciples' feet naked. Then you got men saying Yahushua condones adultery. Then you have Yahushua being a hypocrite. And that's why the Lord said this in 2 Timothy. Let me bring this out in 2 Timothy. Right. Let me bring this out in the book of 2 Timothy. And it's a lot, but for the sake of time, we just brought out these three. This is 2 Timothy 2 and 15, the classic. It says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed." So, and it's true, especially if you're a teacher, if you're a man that's going on the highways and byways, you have to study to show yourself approved, not unto man, but unto the Most High. A workman that needeth not to be ashamed. Because if you're studying and you're well prepped, you don't have anything to be ashamed of. If anything, you have every right to be confident in the Most High. It says, rightly dividing the word of truth. Right? Rightly dividing the word of truth. So you have to rightly divide the word of truth, man. You have to divide the word of truth, not wickedly, but rightly. So even as a woman, you have to study, because a man could come and bring a strange doctrine to you with no precepts. Next thing you know, now you believe Adam had one wife called Lilith, which they get from the book of Enoch. But you want to make sure women and men have to study to show themselves approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Right, but with that, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashima Mashiach, Womadak Yahushai. Lord willing, this video is edifying, man. You got a unity count July 4th in DC. So if brothers able to make it out, you could go out there. We're gonna the brothers gonna be in front of the White House. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make that one. Nevertheless, the brothers is gonna be outside the White House on July 4th for the unity count. So if you're in that area, most High willing, you could come out and get the word. Lord willing, you keep reading, praying, fasting, and studying, and most importantly, beseech the Most High for His mercies. With that, I'm gonna say Shalom.